Welcome to the programme. Today we pay another visit to Tom and Noni Homes with Dan Deneen. Then we have the GAA news from Paul Burns. We visit St Michael's Daycare Centre, Cappamore, to talk to Sister Mercy. After that, Tom Seaver will show us some twinning photographs. And finally, Father Ryan will give us thought for the week. So to start, we go to Dan Deneen at Tom and Noni Holmes' residence.
Catherine Buckley and myself are here in Cappanook.
Cappanook,
as I was corrected now, Cappanook, in the home of the Tom and Noni Holmes, to have a fireside chat and to record the times gone by. Knowing this wonderful couple as I do, I can say with certainty that there is much more than one recording session needed here. And we're looking forward to the next later in the year. Please God.
His behaviour, yes, but then we got another fellow, he was Sheridan, and he was only...
And did the teachers in those times come from other counties beside Limerick?
He was from Waterford.
Waterford, yeah. And Tom mentioned all your teachers, were they local, Tom? Or were they?
Johnny Maher was from Oola.
From Oola, oh yes.
And Tom Welsh lived on the Limerick road between Bohan and Drumkeen.
Oh right. So they were fairly local. Like.
Oh, local.
Oh yeah.
Well, the man then had third, fourth, fifth and sixth class.
Yeah.
And there was a woman, she was a Mrs. Dillon in my time, she was the only one that ever was there. And she came out from Limerick to Boher on the bus and cycled up to Iron.
Right.
And she had infants, whatever kind of infants, and first and second class. And she sat at the fire. She wasn't the world's best teacher, I suppose, either. She sat at the fire in the winter.
Yeah, maybe the heat motivated her a bit.
And she had, did you ever hear of ABC and her shins?
Oh, I did, yeah.
And she had to come sitting at the fire.
And she suffered from, what do you call them too, that you got from sitting near the fire, not bunions or...
Chilblains.
Chilblains, yeah.
She was a nice old girl, she wouldn't beat you. The only thing, I'd go back to this now because it might come up with someone else. If you wear a kitog, they beat you down the knuckles.
Oh dear. And had you weren't?
Yeah, I wasn't a kitog, but there was a man, he's a man now, he was a child that time. Yeah. He left school, he went able to write with his right hand, not his left hand, because they wouldn't let him write with his left hand. And he wasn't able to write with his right hand.
I see.
She beat him every day down on the knuckles and made him take the pencil from that hand to this hand.
Well, yeah, that...
And with the result there, I suppose he was never able to write.
Yeah, that lasted a lot longer than in your youth. It came right up.
I suppose.
20 years ago I'd say that teachers were encouraging people to write with the right hand.
Sure.
So you're both in agreement that the school should never have been demolished?
Well, I wouldn't be there. I suppose in Maroon shouldn't.
And that was the pity it was demolished.
I was always said it.
The school in Iron is still
I never
there.
wanted to see it demolished. Yeah. But I got a section out of a roll book there. I was working above across the road building a house.
Right.
Well, who's living in it now?
Lee Maher.
Oh yeah.
I was building that house the time they knocked the school.
Yeah.
But I got a page out of the roll book and my mother's name in it.
Oh yeah. And your mother's name in it.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. And you know that there's a window from that school on display inside in Kilmurray Lodge.
Is that
there
so?
Is, yeah.
A window from
the old school.
Go away.
Yeah. I've seen it there myself.
Yeah.
John Holmes, I think, had it in his possession, and when Kilmurray Lodge was being built, was given in there. So we're getting on. We're not making as much progress as I thought we'd make. I suppose it is hard because these stories are so interesting. But we'll put you through. You've gone through national school now. So Tom, and we're going to make it brief. Where from when you finished at 14 years of age?
14, I went to the vocational school in Cappamore.
Yeah, and how many years has this been there, Tom?
It's been 3 years there. Yeah. And we learned woodworking, we learned gardening.
Yes.
And we measured the land, we drew the maps of the place and did all the tillage and all the rest of it.
Right.
And there was a big crowd of people employed there.
Yeah.
And Billy O'Brien was the caretaker.
All right.
Tomas Fahy was the headmaster.
Who was the headmaster?
Tomas Fahy.
Tomas Fahy, yeah.
And his wife then was a niece of Mrs. Paddy Berkeley. She was Wade, and he was the first headmaster.
Right.
And we had a Mr. Clancy from Ballycloonan in County Galway.
Yes.
And he was a lieutenant in the army and the war was on, and he was called up.
Yes.
With the result that he was to be got back again, but I never came back again.
Right.
But my final teacher in the science class was a Mr. O'Connor from West Limerick.
Right.
And we had a Mr. O'Driscoll. He was a woodwork teacher.
All right.
And a good one.
Yeah.
And a strict disciplinarian.
Oh.
Not a place. And you cleaned up your bench every evening and put back your tools.
Right.
And you learned a certain amount of ability.
Yeah.
And well, I always got on very well with him anyway.
You found it to be a good training, a good...
Oh God, I was delighted with it.
Yeah. Any young fella would benefit from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what kind of numbers were there, Tom?
Well, there was various numbers.
Yeah.
But the amount of people that went there was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And from the walks to East Limerick.
Right.
Clunkeen and all the rest.
Oh, yes.
And
all by foot, of course, again.
well, bicycle.
Oh, bicycle, yeah.
Bicycle.
Yeah, well, that was...
And, but I went to school on the bus.
And the bus?
Yes.
You were ahead of your time, yeah.
I was, because there were 3 buses going the
No,
road
you were
every
after
night.
telling him that while ago.
Yeah, but it is on record now.
All right.
Yeah.
There were
Yes.
3 buses going the road here.
Oh,
the
yeah.
IOC, the Green bus and Daly's bus.
Oh, yeah.
The IOC was the only one of them that stayed going because it was a company.
Right.
And the others faded out.
Yeah.
But you got up to Maroe over Wetmore
Yeah.
for a penny. But we used to be booking because we could turn back at Ballyconnors at the 3G
Yeah.
because the flood would be out. And you
Oh,
would be
yeah.
able to-
Oh, well, anyhow, excuse was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Green Road, you know.
Oh, yeah.
There was a platform at Deeds Cross and the Black and Tans burned it. There was another platform further up the road, but a local man burned it
My goodness.
because it was keeping the servant by and the servant girl out too late at night.
Yeah.
And,
They weren't able for their duties the
and the
holiday.
shack. We had
Yeah.
an unique thing in the locality.
Yeah.
We had a gambling shack.
Oh,
It was
yes.
a thatch business built by the local people.
Right.
With squares and thatch.
Yeah.
And a tankard above, an old tankard above it for a chimney.
Yes.
But they spend their evenings there and they spend their Sundays. And they played 45 and there's another one.
Poker maybe or something?
Not poker, but I can't think of the
Pontoon?
one. And able to think
Yeah.
of one. But,
Yeah. 110. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter anyhow. They played a lot of games there.
Well, they did
Yeah,
need,
I agree.
but the next year the check got burned down.
Oh, damn it.
And they were like fish out of water.
Right.
But they went around to all the houses and they stayed and played it.
Yes.
But they built a new shack then
Oh, my
with concrete
Yeah.
and galvanized roof in it and the fireplace, but it was freezing. But it's still, I remember people playing cards.
Yeah.
I think there's still a man alive that played, Johnny Lane played the cards there.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. That's Noni now. Like, I'll come back to Noni for a minute, and you can draw your back down. Can you remember Noni after national school?
Oh yes, I went to the Tech 2 in
Oh,
Capmore
in Capmore.
for 2 years.
Right.
We learned cookery and sewing and well, we learned
crochet
Irish
and that kind of stuff.
Irish and we used to knit.
Knit.
We used to knit jumpers
Oh yeah.
and thinking
Right.
in you know, we'd be showing each other how to knit, to tell you the truth,
Right,
apart
right.
from anything else, and made clothes and made blouses and things from time to time.
Right.
And cooked things. Now
Yeah.
you had to bring in, supposing you were making something, you bring in an
Yeah.
egg and a bottle of milk, or you'd be with someone else and they'd bring
Yes.
couple of potatoes or whatever, and you would make a kind of little dinner for the two of you and
Right.
that kind of thing. But it was lovely.
And then after the Tech for 2 years, was it you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where after that then?
Or Limerick Junction then.
Limerick, yeah. And just what did you do and where did you work in Limerick Junction?
Well, it is a bit in Bridle.
Oh, yeah.
Is it a bit
Tis
in
the
Bridle?
the bit in Bridle, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they had a bar and a grocery.
Right.
So you were doing both and worked long hours.
And did you get a bus over there?
Oh no, I cycled. No, well, I stayed there for the week. Like,
yes, you stayed there for the week, yes. And you'd come home for the weekend. Yeah,
I
see.
Back, yeah.
And how many years did you do that for, say, roughly?
5.
5 years. So that brought you up a nice bit. Then we'll finish off this programme now by asking Tom, when he left the Tech in Cappamore, where to then, Tom?
Well, I went working in the bog. The third thing was on, and I got a man's unemployment book.
Yeah.
And I was earning 30 shillings a week.
In the bog?
In the bog.
What year would that have been, now?
1941.
Yeah.
And Paddy Catty in Cappamore was after being in Mount Bellew.
Yes.
And he came home anyway, and he came up working to the bog.
Yes.
And he says to me, "Did you stay home?" She says, "I understand you have scholarship."
Yeah.
"I have," I says, "but should I have a job?" "My dear man," he says, "I'm a bit of sense.
Yes.
This job isn't going to last forever."
Yeah.
"Well," I says, "I'm all right," I says. So he started to tell me about Mount Bellew and sing the praises of it. And I knew more about Mount Bellew than I did about any place else.
Right.
From him.
Yes.
But every word he told me was true.
Yeah.
And God, he says, have a go for it.
Yeah.
And every college was full when I would apply because I wasn't going to go.
Yes.
So
or you could apply for any college.
I could have.
Yes.
Several of them. So because I applied anyway, Mount Bellew was the only one that was vacant. So I went there.
And was it your first time sort of leaving county?
Well, it was my first time leaving home and leaving the county.
Yeah.
Right.
And that meant packing up and going for a year, was it, Tom?
Oh, well, it was from the 6th of October to the end of July.
Oh, right.
And
Almost.
But the 12th of January, I'll never forget it.
In Mount Bellew?
In Mount Bellew.
Yeah.
Because I left here at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was out of the bed and I had to be inside the station at 7 o'clock to get on the train.
Right.
My cousin Tom Holmes came in with me, bring home Margaret Dillon's bicycle.
Yeah.
And we got on the train and we went out across the road anyway and out as far as the Long Barn. And we stopped at Dinton's to Arnacrusher.
Yeah.
And we stopped there until it became clear daylight. We struggled from there into Innes.
Yeah.
And we gave a long time there again. And the next day we started off from Innes. And the further out we went, the colder the day got.
Right.
And the fireman and the driver were out on the ditches trying to root sticks up to try steam. They eventually had to send back to Innes for an engine to push us into Gort.
Yeah. That was the similar troubles with the West Tail Express, according to Percy Finch.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Oliver Hines was waiting for us. A father to Gary Hines now was waiting for us. He was in the school with us.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And he was from that place.
Right.
And he took us, he had a motor car arranged for to take us to Mount Bellew. But he took us to his sister's house in town. She was married to a publican. And that is the first cup of tea I got since 5 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the evening. And I always held in good faith for Hines, because he was outstanding fella, father to Gary Hines now.
Yeah.
And he was beside the Irish speaking agricultural college in
and the college was run by an order of priests?
An order of monks.
What order, Tom?
The Third Order of St. Francis.
Right. And were there lay people employed there in the land and all that?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Or there was an amount of employment.
Yeah.
There was a Billy O'Brien there now, he took charge of the pigs.
Yes.
There was Father, I just can't think of the man, but he used to come to Limerick to judge cattle.
Oh yes, they'd be, yeah.
You went through the whole thing.
Yeah, and did you serve your time with the pigs and the cows?
Oh,
and,
you would spend
the dairy
you would spend your time.
Had they poultry there?
And I was there, and I was sent to the fellow in charge of the bees.
Yeah.
And he says to me, "You're from near Cappamore, I am," I says. "Do you know Bilbo?" God, I know it, I heard of it. But I was a policeman there, he says, and when I retired from the police, he says, I joined the order here.
My
and
God.
he was an extremely old man.
My goodness.
But to me, he gave me more information than I knew myself.
Well, of course.
Because he knew my part of the country.
Very well, yeah.
And
he knew all about the putty and Mickey and all that,
he
did he?
did. And
They're there to make it.
there's the thing now,
He was
Black
in the-
Malls Cross. There was a police barracks there.
It was, yeah.
And Billy Dunlay was in the demolition of the barracks. And the stones went down and built Cusick's in Edmonton.
My God.
Cusick's house.
Yeah.
And that's where the barracks was there on account of the patrol.
Yeah.
But Corbett in Cappamore served there. He was a policeman.
Yeah.
He owned it where the bridge in is now.
Yeah.
And he was married to Mary Catherine. And we were cousins related.
Yeah.
Johnny Bryan and God Almighty, when I think back.
Yeah.
Then Mick the Goat and Tom Puckman were having a chat one day, and Conor O'Neill came down the road anyway, and he said something to the Puckman and I said to Bill the Goat.
Yeah.
And the old Puck was a bit different. What did he say? He said to keep a kid.
Yeah.
Keep a kid, you know. The Puck and the Goat. Were
Oh, yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
The O'Neill now was an ex-British, an ex-Irish army officer,
Yeah.
but he wasn't called up during the war.
Right.
There was some dispute started with him at one time, and there was a certain number of officers left out.
Right.
But the Goat, you know, was at 3 pensions.
Yes.
He was an ex-British army man.
Yeah.
He'd be
And
taxed
he worked
now.
in the every Borean in Ireland.
Right.
And he served. He used to call me another one of the bag and bun crowd.
The bag
And bun.
Yeah.
The battle of the bag and bun. And the Capmore fellows used to be delighted because they used to say, well, the joiner and him was getting his comeuppance now
Yeah.
for the bag and bun.
Yeah.
But God, he was a marvellous man to listen to.
Yeah.
Myself and Jody went in one night to Patrick James and himself and Jimmy Coffey one side. God, I says to do the coffees and the Ryans and good friends tonight.
Yeah.
It wasn't always the case. They'll go out anyway, says, he says, laugh on you, he says, laugh on you. I'm kind of lost now.
You're going off rambling.
Yeah. You're all right. You're all right.
You're going off rambling a bit.
Yes. I can't help you on that one.
No, but Laffernews.
Yeah.
Laffernew was the minister.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was in charge of the railway line.
Right.
And Father Line asked me one day, where did the tuckers come from?
Yeah.
And I was able to tell him, a house put up beside Jack Donovan's gate. That was
All right.
and
Yeah.
the Laffernews.
Right.
The person, I remember him well, at least. I remember the church in Capmore was knocked, you know. And the stone was thrown up to Glenstone, and you was there.
Oh yeah.
And
That's the Protestant church.
The Protestant
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
And the stone was quarried behind the white quarries in the Coga.
Oh yeah.
And they went shot to the stone in Glenstone anyway, and they were very anxious to get it. And Father Winnie went over looking, and he couldn't find, but he could find the quarries in the black white.
Yeah.
But they were not the white quarries. He says the black stone was there.
Yeah.
But I found out where the white quarries were. I walked into Penny Luke's van one day, and the two pierced the gate.
Yeah.
Where did you get the stone? He says, I got it bent in the quarry, he says.
Yeah.
And that was the stone.
Yeah.
There was 2 ponds in Johnny Luke's farm in Coga.
Yeah.
There was no ponds there when Bilbao Creamery worked.
Yeah.
But when the creamery stopped, the pond was built up again.
I see.
The water.
Oh, the water. Yeah.
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 Over now to the chairman of Maru Boher GAA, Paul Burns.
I'd just like to bring you up to date with regard to the club developments over the last month. We have a new committee and officers in the club since February 2012, and our main ambitions for this year is to raise adequate finance to finance the field in Boher and all the other developments of the fields. We want to strive to get more youth in the parish playing hurling, and the third objective is to bring senior status, hurling status success to the Maruboher team. Over the last month we've appointed Ger Hegarty, who's obviously a famous Limerick hurler of the past, to train the Maruboher team. That's gone very well, and he's aided.
Something going wrong there with the chair or something?
It's my shoe.
Is it?
Grand. Do I start again?
Do please.
Grand. So I keep...
That'll be picked up.
Grand, no bother.
Sorry about that.
No, fine. Hello, my name is Paul Burns and I'm chairman of the Maruboher GA Club for 2012. We recently have a new officers appointed to the club and a new committee, and our objectives for this year are to promote senior hurling in Maruboher with the ambition of hopefully winning the championship. We also want to encourage more youth to play hurling at senior level for Maruboher. And thirdly, we want to raise adequate finance to develop the field in Boher and increase and improve facilities in the Maru pitch. Over the last month we have appointed Ger Hegarty, who's a famous hurler of old with the Limerick team, and he is currently training the Maruboher team and ably assisted by Sean O'Neill and Michael John O'Brien, who currently are going very well training this team. They've had a number of sessions, the mood is very good, and we're getting a lot of players that for various reasons over the past couple of years didn't participate in playing senior hurling, have now come back and are training actively to play for the Maruboher team. We are very active in raising funds currently with the Mackey Draw, and we have increased the membership from 180 members in the parish to 330. And our ambition is to get it to 350 by the end of April. This Tuesday night coming, we're having a gamble in Maru, and again all funds will be put towards both the senior and the underage clubs in the parish. Our underage structure are competing in the Féile in the next 2 weeks, where they'll be playing Kilmallock in Kilmallock, and we wish them very well, because that's a big competition to be involved in the Féile in Limerick. Over the next number of months we would hope that we will become a very competitive team in the championship, and that all our underage structures right up from 14s to the minors will be very competitive in their various championship games. A lot of our youngsters are now involved in trials with the Limerick teams from under 14 up to minor level, and we have in the region between 5 and 6 players at all grades, both involved with the club and more importantly with the Limerick teams at various levels. So I would hope over the next couple of months that fellow officers will bring you up to date, or myself, with regard to the various progresses we're making. Thank you.
Sister Mercy has managed St Michael's Daycare Centre since it first opened. Recently she told us her story.
Well, I'd like to tell you the story of the daycare centre here in Cappamore. The idea of a daycare centre was Dr. McMahon, a doctor that was here some years ago. And he had an idea that it would be good to have a centre where the elderly could come, socialise, and be helped in every way to stay in their own homes rather than go to nursing homes or etc. He also felt that those who were looking after the elderly needed a break, and so he had this dream. Now, Dr. McMahon died before his dream became a reality, and the CDA around the 95 or 96 got the idea that they would pursue this dream. I was asked, would I open the daycare and would I get it on its feet? I had just retired from the principalship in Doon, and I was in one sense glad to have an occupation because I had a great energy, and I felt myself that I was too young to retire, but I was the age, so there wasn't much I could do. So I accepted the challenge. Now, it was a challenge because I was dealing with teenagers all my life, and then to come to deal with the senior citizens was certainly a challenge. And when I came first, I was inclined to run it like a school. I wanted a timetable, and that people were to be here at a certain time and there, and I discovered that that's not the way senior citizens either wanted it or could could keep going like that. So they wanted more easy and more relaxed. So I had to talk to myself, that I wasn't the principal of a school, and this wasn't a bunch of teenagers, and they were different. Now, I had experience of my mother. My mother lived until she was 101. And during the holidays, break from school, I used to go up to help to nurse her. So in a sense, that helped me, because as I looked at the senior citizens or the elderly, I kind of saw my mother in them. And I said, well, these people and this person is someone's mother, and I must look after her and be as kind to her as I was to my own mother. In my noviceship training, they'd say, like, in the vulnerable and in the old and in the youngsters and in the elderly and in the poor and in those we meet, you see the face of Christ. So I tried to bring that with me, that in the elderly I saw someone else's mother, but I also saw the face of Christ, and that helped me to be patient and compassionate and kind. The HSE then, the Help Board, they fund the daycare, and every month we get a substantial grant, and that goes to fund it, because the people that come in the morning, they get a cup of tea and scones or toast. Then they get a 3-course dinner or a 4-course dinner. In the afternoon they get tea and fresh buns or cake that is made on the premises. Everything that is given out is made on the premises, and it is made fresh every day. We don't have any waste, but we don't keep things from one day to the next. And what's very good, the HSE has we'll say an inspector of hygiene and a food inspector that comes to make sure that everything is up to standard. As a matter of fact, we had him yesterday, and he commented especially on the cleanliness of the place, and I was very pleased at that. And of course the cleanliness is due, and the hygiene is due to the staff. I have an excellent staff, and they're as interested in the place as I am myself. And I must say, I even find it absolutely hygienically clean, and it is my wish and my desire and my dream to have it like that. Now, the centre has a wide catchment area, and what helped me in the beginning was it has the same catchment area as the school. So I was familiar with the names, because I'm not a native of Cappamore or a native of Doon. I'm a Dublin person myself. But because I was principal of the school, and because there was a special catchment area, it made me familiar with the various areas, and the daycare centre serves the various catchment areas. Like, they begin at Doon, Cappamore, Maru, Palace Green, Ula, Drumkeen, and we have some people coming from Carcanish. So it's a very wide, Boher is another place, it's a very wide catchment area. But as I say, it didn't frighten me, or it didn't put a strain or stress on me that it was so wide, because I was used to dealing with that catchment area. And in fact, many of the people came in, their children and their grandchildren went to school in Doon, and so I was familiar with a lot of the people. So they're the various parishes that the people come from, and the priests in the various parishes have been a great help as well. They come occasionally to say Mass for their people, and also to give them the sacrament of the sick. And twice a year, like in Christmas and summer, we have a big celebration and a big celebration of Mass where all the priests of the various parishes come and celebrate the Eucharist for us and meet their own people. And apart from the spiritual end of that, it's a way of keeping the priests in touch with what we're doing so that they will encourage people to come to us. We have about, now I'd say we have about 35 or 36 people coming daily, but as well as that we have a number of people from special needs, Lisnagry, St Vincent's and Lisnagry. They have their own quarters because we extended the daycare a couple of years ago and we made sure that they would have their own quarters. They have their own carers, but we provide the hygiene of the place, and we also provide meals for them and give them any assistance that we can. We support them in our own way, and they in their way support us. We also have a number of people coming from the Bonmore, the Brothers of Charity. They have a house or two houses in Doon, and every day we have a number of people that come from Bonmore. Really, we have 5 in all. 3 come one day and 3 another day and 2 another day. So we understand that we are the only daycare that provide also for people with very special needs, and we love them to come, and we have a special place in our hearts for them and do all we can to help them. Now, one lady said to me one day, and it kind of, you know, it cheered me up. It said, it's wonderful to come under the one roof. You have chiropody, you have your medical interests taken care of, you have hairdressing, you have physical exercises, then you have the bingo and cards and your meals. Apart from that, what I think myself is the great asset of the place, the social aspect. They come from, you know, they meet each other. Now we have a number of people, I'm talking about Maru now today, that there were special houses in Maru that the elderly got, you know, they were provided with. And some of these were new people that didn't know Maru very well, but they're coming to us. And one lady said to me, I'm sorry I didn't know about this place long ago. But she said, since I came into the village of Maru, the people have encouraged me, and I've got to know so many people. And so they meet and they discuss, and they talk about the weather, but they also talk about what's on the paper. John Joe Leonard spoke to me this morning about a tragedy that took place in Carlow, and that kind of thing. They exchange newses, and they exchange the things that worry them, and the things in society that, you know, frighten them, worry them, and take them aback. They talk about it, and somehow or another it takes the stress and the strain out of their lives. We have a number of staff now. We have 7 permanent staff. They're really on contract, you know, they do certain hours because I rotate the hours so that we get the best benefit from them. And we have a cook and an assistant cook, and then we have a number, we call them care assistants, and they keep the place as spotless and as hygienic as possible. They're also very fond of the clients, and they'll do anything they can to help them. We have a full-time nurse. She's a tremendous asset to the place. She has her own anaesthet, and she does that herself. So in that respect, she's a great asset to me too, because I can relax and know that they're getting the best nursing care that they can get in a daycare centre. So that's my story of the daycare, and may it continue for many years to come.
In our last episode, Tom Seaver described the twinning project. Tom now shows us some photographs from the twinning experience.
You've probably seen the twinning nurses outside the village of Maru. This one here is the one that's in Avery-Grégy-sur-Yare. It's actually Grégy. I was telling you that Avery and Grégy are 2 separate villages. This is Grégy, and you'll see how we're twinned, Jumelé is twinned with Maru, Republic of Ireland. This here is the River Yare. It's no way to be compared with the Douglasha or any of our lovely rivers, the Clare River or any of those. It looks to me to be polluted, but these are the pictures now that we saw of Évry-Grégy on our first visit there in 1994. This here is the bridge across the River Yare at Grégy. Here we see people that we came to know pretty well. Some of our own people there. There's myself in the glasses there. My wife Mary is there too. And they're talking with Guy Simon on the left. And Gilbert, the lady in the red hair, she's since passed away. And another lady, it's surely Genevieve Chambry, I think. This one has the Holmes family, Tom, Mary and Tara. Tara was quite young that time. Now, here's one of these meetings that I was talking about. For these discussions we would probably have some subject, and we were all asked to give our opinions. From the left there you have Maureen O'Connell, Arda Conlon, French lady next, I'm not sure, Sean Hogg, Maureen O'Connell, Francois Simon and Robert. This one we have Paddy O'Connell central here, Gilbert looking around, also Francois on the left and Mary Walsh-Seaver there, and in the green sweater on the right is Kitty Humphreys. So all enjoying the French fair there. Here we are in Versailles, the Palace of Versailles, and Louis XIV on his horse there. Behind us you have Arda, myself, Mary in front, Maureen Kenny, the other Paddy O'Connell and the other Maureen O'Connell, and in behind you have Mary Holmes, Maureen O'Connell, John Egan and Liam O'Connell. That was in Versailles. Here we're in Montmartre in Paris. Tom Holmes is enjoying the sunshine there, and two other French people in the background. Here's Arda relaxing in a park in Évry. You have Liam O'Connell here and his French friend Robert having a couple of pints together. And this one, Maureen O'Connell is looking very glamorous there with her with her sun specs, and there's other people that you'll recognise there as well. Arda's in the background, and Tom Holmes, some of our French friends as well. This one here, you have Onofrio Chembry on the left, Sean Hogg and Damien Smith all enjoying the fair. Onofrio again is here, and this one with Sean Hogg, it's roughly the same as the previous one. In this one you have John Egan with his two lovely daughters and their French hostess, Bernardine I think was her name. Here's the invitation card to the first twinning ceremony that we had in Maru. It didn't take place at the monument at the end of the day, but we went to the community hall where the official signing took place, and that's the record of that. And this one, Father Mark Tierney, who has passed away only recently, is talking to Jacques Bricou, who's the husband of Anne-Marie Bricou. She was mayor that time. you have Francoise and Guy Simon, who were very prominent and still are. Francoise is. Guy, unfortunately, has passed away. Across the far side of the street there, you can see Michael and Kitty Humphreys and Mary Walsh Seaver and Anne-Marie Bricou, I think. Anne-Marie Bricou. Now here we are on one of the farms of Avery Grégy. You'll see the combine harvester in the background there, New Holland. And Dennis and Maureen O'Malley are there. The farmer himself, whose name I can't recall, is in the red jumper. Then Anne-Marie Bricou is next, and behind her is another Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, can't remember her surname, Mary Walsh Seaver, and you have Bernard. Bernard on the right there, he was a mainstay of the Avery Grégy twinning, and a very fine fellow. Here we're all enjoying a day out. I think we were in Fontainebleau that day. That's me with the cap there. Father Ryan is next to me. Two of our French friends, John Holmes, Paddy Horrigan, Father Mark, and enjoying a cigarette is Michael Humphreys. Now the tennis day, Avery Grégy Tennis Club brought their best players over to tell us how to play tennis, and I think we ended up showing them how to play because we produced a few kind of champions in our own right, one of whom was Aoife O'Neill, who's there in the centre at the back, and you have Father Mark on the right, and some of the French players there. Bernard is in front there, and you have Dennis, Sean Flynn, and another person I can't identify, but that was a great day. We played tennis all day and we certainly enjoyed ourselves. But there were no losers that day. We all enjoyed ourselves. Here we're on the Bateau Mouche. Going up and down the River Seine in Paris, you have these boats that they call the Bateau Mouche, and they're especially put on, of course, for tourists, and this was one of our trips. From the left you have Mary Walsh Seaver, you have Maureen and Dennis O'Malley, you have Paddy and Anne Horrigan, and then in the front Sean Hogg, behind him are Kitty and Michael Humphreys, and just somebody just looking in there on the extreme right. Here's a group under that sign again for Avery Grégy-sur-Yare. You have myself and Mary and Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie and her husband. Her husband is the other side of Paddy Horrigan there. He was Guy as well. And they were two very nice people, very generous. This is a more recent group now. I think this is the 2010 group here in front of the community hall in Maru. You have a group of our Maru people with the Avery Grégy people. So we've some new people who joined the twinning. In front would be Angela O'Malley. She has joined, and we also have Lillian O'Malley on the extreme right there. Therese Brennan is there, and most of the others are French. That was just before their departure. Tom Holmes and myself are standing at the back there on the right.
To complete our programme, Father Ryan will give his thought for the week from the Church of the Holy Rosary, Maru.
So we're here in the Church of the Holy Rosary, Maru. This evening the church is 107 years old, and it is indeed a very beautiful church. Children refer to this place as Holy God's House. That's a nice way of describing it. I remember once being in a house and going into the sitting room and seeing a lovely plaque over the mantelpiece. And the caption read, "The home is the place where we complain the most and are treated the best." I'm sure we've all got memories of our homes and the places where we grew up. At home for us, prayer was very much part of our daily lives. We'd be summoned in at night to say the rosary. And during the summertime, we'd be anxious to stay out a bit longer. Fine summer evenings, we'd protest a little bit, but we'd come in and kneel on the floor, cement floor, and there would be, of course, the usual distractions. Might be a Kirog making its way across the floor, or somebody would say too many Hail Marys, or somebody would get mixed up in the Our Father, and there would be the odd giggle, but we'd be reminded of what we were doing, supposed to be doing. So things have changed an awful lot since that time. I often think today that homes are more like bus stops where parents are coming and going all the time, picking up children from school, bringing them to school, taking them to football and hurling and rugby and soccer and swimming and grinds and all kinds of things going on. I often think, do they have time at all to sit down and have a meal together? And with regard to prayer in the home these days, I'm quite sure that a lot of parents would be praying with their children. I would think too that perhaps in lots of houses there mightn't be any prayer. This time of the year now we're preparing for the sacraments, first confession. As a matter of fact, tomorrow evening we'll be having first confession here in this church, first Holy Communion and confirmation. And if there's no prayer in the homes, it makes things a bit more difficult for teachers, and teachers do a great job in preparing the children for these important steps in their lives. I would hate to think on days like that, First Communion days and Confirmation days, that all the focus would be on the style, where we're going to have the food, the bouncy castle, all these things. They're important, but by comparison with what the sacraments are meant to be for us, they're of little or no importance. People these days, I think, are getting a bit more sensible in that they're going home for the food, and that's good. Back in 1979, when John Paul II came to Ireland, he spoke down in Limerick on the 1st of October 1979. He talked about the family. And I'd like to quote a little bit from his sermon on that day. "Your homes should always remain homes of prayer. As I leave today this island which is so dear to my heart, this land and its people, which is such a consolation and strength to the Pope, may I express a wish that every home in Ireland may remain or may begin again to be a home of daily family prayer. That you would promise me to do this would be the greatest gift you could give me. As I leave your hospitable shores." Back in the old days that I've been talking about growing up at home, and of course the Mass was also extremely important. I love this little poem which I learned off by heart. I'm sure you probably learned it off by heart too, and it reminds us of that time. It's called "An Old Woman of the Roads" by Padraig Colum. "Oh, to have a little house, to own the hearth and stool and all, the heaped up sods upon the fire, the pile of turf against the wall. To have a clock with weights and chains and pendulum swinging up and down, a dresser filled with shining delph, speckled and white and blue and brown. I could be busy all the day, clearing and sweeping hearth and floor, and fixing on their shelf again my white and blue and speckled store. I could be quiet there at night, beside the fire and by myself, sure of a bed, and loath to leave the ticking clock and the shining delph. Och, but I'm weary of mist and dark, and roads where there's never a house or bush, and tired I am of bog and road, and the crying wind, and the lonesome hush. And I am praying to God on high, and I am praying Him night and day for a little house, a house of my own, out of the winds and the rain's way.